同事早晨。
Good morning, colleagues. It's the scheduled time, and we have already formed a quorum. I now call the meeting to order. We have a total of 7 discussion papers. As usual, I have to remind members that if there's any direct or indirect pecuniary interest involved in the discussion items, then in accordance with Rule 83A, members should declare the nature of such interest before they speak. I would also like to draw members' attention to Rule 84 with regard to the regulation of rule on voting where there is a direct pecuniary interest. We are now discussing PWSC 2014-15-11. That's 768 CL. It's about the strategic studies for artificial islands in central waters, and that's to upgrade 768 CL to Cat A at an estimated cost of $226.9 million in money of the day prices for carrying out the strategic studies for artificial islands in the central waters and associated site investigation works. With us today on this item, Mr. Han Chi-kyung, Director of Civil Engineering and Development, Mr. Robin Lee, Deputy Head of Civil Engineering Office, Port and Land from the CEDD, and Ms. Phyllis Lee, Deputy Director, Territorial Planning Department. On the 18th of June, on the 18th, 24th of June, and 29th of October, we already discussed this paper with regard to the proposal to, or the motion to terminate the discussion of paper and also an adjournment motion. They've already been rejected, and on the 24th and 25th of June and on the 2nd of July, at those 3 meetings, the subcommittee also voted on 111 motions, which was ruled by the chairman of the previous session to be not in order, and therefore we are not going to deal with this. And in accordance with the last meeting, some 59 items were raised or moved in accordance with Rule 32A, and it was ruled to be in order by the chairman of the past term. And for those that have not been dealt with, they have already been placed before members today. And at the last meeting held on the 29th of October, I allowed members to ask questions on the basis of the paper. And after members have all asked your questions, I will be dealing with the 59 motions. And last time there were 16 members asking questions, and I note that many of the questions were repetitive, and they've been asked before, and therefore I believe that we can now move on to dealing with the motions. So I'd like to know if there are any questions from members. If none, then the subcommittee will now deal with the outstanding 59 motions that have not been dealt with at the last meeting. First, we have to deal with item 10176, a motion moved by Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Albert Chan has yet to arrive. Next, Dr. Fernando Cheung. As Mr. Albert Chan has not arrived, so we'll first deal with Dr. Fernando Cheung's motion 0195 to 0197. Now I'll invite those who are in favor of dealing with motion 0195 moved by Mr. Fernando Cheung to raise their hands. 10. Those who are against.
5位反對。
5 against. 10 for, 5 against. That being the case, we will now deal with... Yes? Yes, Secretary. We are now withdrawing this paper. Okay, so you are withdrawing this paper. Okay, the administration has now withdrawn the paper on these artificial islands in the central waters. So we can now move on to the next paper.
We
will now deal with item 2 on the agenda. That's head 707, 756 Ma On Shan. That is Ma On Shan development, new towns and urban area development. That's roads, drainage and sewage works at Whitehead and Loch Wa Sha Phase 2. And the administration is now proposing to recommend to the FC to upgrade 756CL to Cat A at an estimated cost of $252.8 million for the construction of additional infrastructure to support various planned developments at Whitehead, Ma On Shan. Okay. Can the administration walk us through this? Yes, Mr. Han Chi-Kang, Director of Civil Engineering. I'll be very brief because the paper is pretty detailed. 756CL is Ma On Shan development, roads, drainage and sewage works at Whitehead and Loch Wa Sha, and the purpose of the project is to tie in with the planned development in Ma On Shan and to provide the necessary infrastructure to support those developments. And the scope of the works would include widening of about 500 meters of Yu Sha Road, and also the construction of a covered footbridge of about 32 meters long with lift across Yu Sha Road, and also the construction of a sewage pumping station and sewers. And the cost of the works are estimated to be $252.8 million, lasting for about 2 years. We'd like to get the funding as soon as possible so that we can commence works as early as possible. Thank you. Okay, if members have any questions, please indicate. Yes, Mr. Wu Chi-wai, Deputy Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on a point that I raised at the development panel. In this site, with regard to the sewage pumping station that will be built, after the completion of the pumping station, will there be overall improvement of water quality along Loch Wa Sha, because it's quite a natural swimming beach? So would you be adopting this standard so that after the improvement to the sewage pumping station and sewers, in the end you'll be able to result in an improvement of the overall water quality in Loch Wa Sha, so that you'll be able to achieve or meet the standards as gazetted in the swimming beaches, so that in NT, in the new territories, the residents will be able to make use of that? Because according to the eastern waters, yes, in the future we're going to have Long Mei Tan. That's not controversial at all. But then, if this is the right location, then can we also build a swimming beach? So can we have a reply from the administration? Yes, Mr. Han. Yes, Chairman. I'll be setting out the scope of the sewage works, and then I'll defer to my colleague who will give a more detailed reply. With regard to the sewage facility, that's because of the planned project items, including, if you look at the enclosure to the paper, enclosure 1, as we have set out here, we have CDA 2 and 3, and also the recreation area. For the existing villages and also the sewers, they are not covered by the scope of this project. So I'll defer to the LCSD. Yes, Mr. Choi. In fact, to the east and west of Whitehead, we have Hoi Shing 1 and Tong Tau, and they are the advanced area for this site. And if we were to set up a swimming beach here, then we will have to conduct an ecological and heritage impact assessment. And we also have to bear in mind that in the vicinity there are also some heritage sites. And these two sites are not covered in the Whitehead project, and we don't have plans to develop any swimming beach there. All right, you said that Hoi Sing 1 is now a protected area. Because I'm referring to Ma On Shan is quite a natural beach. So are you referring to that area as well? Because if you've been there, if we are not talking about the same sites, then it's not very meaningful for us to have this discussion here. Thank you. I think the site that you're referring to should be what we refer to as Do Tao. So where is Do Tao? It's now a natural beach, right? Just because of the water quality, it cannot be used as a swimming beach. Is that right? Well, we also have to look at the future water quality. And if we were to develop that into a swimming beach, then water quality will have to be considered. And we are now collecting data. Will you start a detailed study to find out where the problems are? And then while you're building the pumping station, then much of the sewage water will have to be collected and intercepted, and gradually you may be able to develop that into a public beach. That would depend on the water quality after the completion of the pumping station. We have not yet got any data yet. Any further questions from members? Yes, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to follow up on this further. In fact, at the development panel, I've already raised this point and comment, but then after the summer break, even now, you're still telling us that you do not have any data and information with you, and I find it most disappointing because as we've been arguing about which location is suitable for the setting up of a swimming beach, and then apparently you're doing this at the wrong location, like Long Mei Tan, and I think the public cannot but wonder and query as to whether certain things should be done by the administration. Apparently you're doing this very arbitrarily, and therefore I'd like to send out this message. And my comment on this is that with regard to the LCSD's approach, at the last development panel meeting, I already raised this, and yet, despite the discussion at the development panel, you have not given a detailed reply with regard to the construction of the sewage pumping station and sewers. And after the water quality at Ma On Shan has been improved, you should set it up as a swimming beach. You should have done your homework. You should have found out the situation. But then, despite what I've said, you have not done anything at all. So what's the point of having any discussion at the development panel in the first place? Apparently, even after the discussion, you have not done any follow-up action. You have not taken any follow-up action when you come to this committee, and I find this most disappointing, Chairman. Does anyone from the administration wish to respond to Mr. Wu Chi-wai's points? Yes, Mr. Hon. Chairman, as I just said, the project is to serve the new development area, and if we have to set up a natural swimming beach at Total, then we will have to consider the environmental implications as we said, water quality there. Because of some existing villages like a Total village, well, the sewers of those villages might cause water pollution to the beach in Total. So Mr. Choi was saying that we haven't collected the data, and therefore we will have to take a more detailed look before we take any decision. Yes, Mr. Wu. Chairman. What I find to be most disappointing is that when there are questions raised at the development panel meeting, we did not get any answer at the meeting, and there was no study whatsoever afterwards. And a lot of resources have been put into old villages for the purpose of connecting the sewers. There might be reconnection and rearrangement and so on. And if you think that this is in time with the Ma On Shan development, then you should have dealt with the issue of water quality.
Later on, you might be connecting pipes to villages, and you should then include this area. So there will be an opportunity for you to tackle the difficulties and challenges that you are facing. But unfortunately, I haven't heard anything to that effect, that whether you would consider this place and turn it into a bathing beach. Thank you. Any response? Any further response from the administration? Okay. Mr. Wu, no more follow-up from you. Does any other member wish to speak? Does any member have a question? If members... Sorry, I didn't see you. Ms. Sito. Yes, Chairman. I'd like to ask the administration. You're talking about sewage treatment and infrastructure for it. What are the criteria? In the last legislative year, political parties across the entire spectrum are very concerned about old villages and sewage treatment for them, and also other kinds of infrastructure relating to people's livelihood, including water supply, electricity, and sewage treatment. I understand you have sold the land here, and therefore you have to build the sewage treatment pumping stations and also storming drains and other storm water drains, etc. So what are the criteria? Do you look at the population, or do you consider whether the land has been sold, or do you give priority to old villages? Or is it that just because the land has been sold, so there is development, and under the pressure of developers, you will do it faster? And on the other hand, there are old villages and nobody has shown any interest to buy that kind of land, so you drag your feet. So in other words, how do you set priorities for such infrastructure work for villages? Mr. Hon. Chairman, we are proposing this project because in that area we have new development, and there will be a large-scale increase in the population. There is a need, therefore, to increase the infrastructure to take care of the larger population. As for existing villages, it is not that they are totally without sewage facilities. Now, I do not have an actual survey here like a Total village, but usually they have basic sewage treatment facilities. But just now we were talking about whether a beach can be used as a bathing beach. And we will have to take a detailed look to look at sewage treatment around the area. So we are not talking about a general infrastructure issue, but we are, of course, concerned about the hygiene conditions around a possible bathing beach. Ms. Ho, I'm not following up on the beach itself, but I'm talking about infrastructure projects including stormwater drains, flood prevention, sewage treatment, etc. I'd like to know how you set priorities to these. Remember, in the last year when we were saying that the enclaves would be included in into the boundaries of country parks, many councillors also questioned why you did not provide basic infrastructure for old villages, and yet you do not allow people to sell the land and you limit the development there. We were all very concerned about villagers in old villages who also have their basic livelihood needs. We are concerned that yes, you sell the land, you have to provide the infrastructure for possible large-scale development. But what about old villages? How do you set the priorities? Is it because the land is not at a premium, so you leave them unattended? Mr. Han, I think that question has not got a direct connection to the project under discussion, but I understand Ms. Ho's concern. However, I don't have all the information here to answer Ms. Ho. Can we have a paper afterwards? Yes, if no other members. Yes, Mr. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Sorry. I'm aware from the paper of the administration that this project is not a designated project under the EIAO, and that there will not be permanent adverse impact on the environment. However, they promise that during the construction period, they will do everything possible to control pollution, and also they will have mitigation measures to tackle noise and dust. I think that is desirable. And I can also see that about 9,920 tons of construction waste will be generated, but 54% of the inert waste will be reused on site. I think that is, again, very desirable, even if we want the percentage to be higher. However, I'm also aware that some inert waste will be sent to public fuel reception facilities for subsequent reuse. I am concerned about the public fuel reception facilities. How much capacity do they still have? I'd like to know how they are faring. Would they be almost filled already? Now, if we do not have other reclamation projects, where can the public fuel go? Because if we are not going to farm land by reclamation, then the fill material will fill up the public fuel reception facilities. Mr. Hon, we are going to make use of another 1,710 tons, and we are talking about 2 fuel reception facilities, one in Sheung Kwan Wong, the other one in Tuen Mun. In fact, there is a risk in both places that we are almost reaching capacity. Therefore, every year, nearly 1,000 tons of reusable inert material have been taken back to the mainland, and in fact a 5-kilometer area or 5 square kilometer area has been filled, which is a big area actually. And I understand Mr. Low's concern. If we cannot further our infrastructural projects, we really have to make use of the fuel that we generate every year. This is not waste at all, but it can actually be used or recycled. Mr. Low, we understand that the other paper has been retracted, and that is the artificial islands in central waters. Many people in the engineering field said that we should actually start a survey on that project, because in Hong Kong now we lack land for housing and other projects. This is because we are not doing enough to farm land. So at least we should start that kind of study. And then in a related area, in fact, a lot of the so-called waste generated by construction projects can be reused. But if we are only putting them into public fill facilities, I'm afraid that the facilities will soon be filled up. Now you can still use it at other places, but do we have a third and a fourth such public fill facility? I think what is most important is that the reclamation projects that should be undertaken should go ahead. Mr. Hon, the short answer is that we do not have any other public fill facility, and the present 2 facilities are 90% full. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, another question, a very brief one. I hope the Bureau will consider doing a study at Lok Wal Sha and Tong Tau to see whether this place can be used for or as a bathing beach. I hope you will do a study and let us have a report. I hope you can make a commitment to do a baseline study here to see whether it can be used as a bathing beach. Later on, when more people move in, if they see such a beautiful beach, they will certainly request the administration to turn it into a bathing beach. Any other response? Can you make that commitment? Because actually this is a main point of discussion at the development panel, and that is why we have particularly asked the LCSD representatives to attend this PWSC meeting. Thank you, Chairman. Later on, if there is a plan to develop a bathing beach here, we'll certainly do a detailed study to ascertain the feasibility of building a bathing beach here, and will certainly include water quality. If members have no other questions, I'll put the item to the vote. Those in favor, please raise their hands. Those against? I am of the view that the majority of members taking part in the vote are in support of the item, and the item is endorsed. Next, PWSC 2014-15-33, 19 GB. Members are invited to recommend to the Finance Committee to increase the approved project estimate of 19 GB by 8719.9 million from $16,253.2 million to $24,973.1 million in money of the day prices. On the 22nd of March and also 5th of March 2014, the administration consulted the development panel on this project. The majority of members supported the submission of the funding request to this committee for consideration, and the main points of the discussion have been submitted to members. You should have got a paper, members, detailing what the development panel said about the Liantang Hengyunwai boundary control point and associated works, site formation and infrastructure projects. I'd like to ask the administration whether you would like to take us through the paper. Mr. Hon. Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, just wait. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen, a point of order. I pressed the button to request to speak. I would like to move that according to 33, para 33 of the Public Works Subcommittee procedure, to adjourn the discussion on papers relating to Head 705, 703 and 707. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen is moving a motion according to para 33 of the PWSC procedure to for the committee to adjourn the discussion of PWSC 33. No, Chairman, I'm not only moving to adjourn the debate on 33, I am moving a debate on 33 to 37 altogether. Mr. Lee, my understanding is that para 33 reads, a member when speaking on a proposal in the subcommittee may move without notice that discussion on an item or further proceedings of the committee be now adjourned. Well, that leg doesn't apply here. So reading para 33, every time we can only deal with one item. Is that right? Because I remember Mr. Ip Kok Him was able to adjourn the debate on a few items. The clerk. Thank you, Chairman. I think Mr. Lee is trying to include 5 papers from PWSC 33 to 37. I think is trying to adjourn the discussion on all 5 items. I think the effect would amount to adjourning the meeting altogether. I think that is more appropriate. As you said, Mr. Chairman, para 33 means we should only talk about one particular item. I think the clerk has a point there, because what is remaining on the agenda will be the papers mentioned by Mr. Lee. If we adjourn the discussion on all those papers, then we will not have any items on the agenda for discussion. Mr. Ip Kok Him, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen mentioned the last meeting, but I think you can clarify, because last time we were talking about a joint debate. The debate was already on an item being discussed. I think that was appropriate. But this time around, we are only dealing with PWSC 2014-15-33.
So my understanding is that there is no way that we can adjourn the debate of not just this one and also the next few items. So I'd like to clarify these points. So I'll listen to Mr. Lee again first. Yes, Chairman, I'd like to modify that so that I'm only proposing to adjourn the discussion on 33. So you're only going to adjourn the debate on 33. Yes, Mr. Wong Kwok Heng. Chairman, I have nothing further to add for the time being. Okay, in accordance with Rule 33, a member can speak on a proposal, but then he is not allowed to speak more than once, and he is also not allowed to speak for any longer than the time specified by the subcommittee, and therefore I propose that a member will be given no more than 3 minutes, and you can press the request to speak button or raise your hand to indicate that you'd like to speak. Yes, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen first. Thank you, Chairman. In fact, what we'd like to do is to ensure that for items that have a lot to do with people's livelihoods, they can be approved as soon as possible, and therefore we urge the administration to do this. Yes, I was proposing to adjourn the discussion on item 33, but then in fact I'd like to adjourn the discussion on 33, 34, 35, 36, and 37 so that the administration can rearrange the items so that for the school items or projects, they can be given top priority. Because for these projects, they are very urgent, and we do have special schools and schools that need to be expanded, and they have everything to do with people's livelihood. But then for these white elephant projects, like Liantang, and you're seeking additional funding. So for the Liantang boundary control point, they are white elephant projects, and they are not really very important to people's livelihood. And what we often talk about these days is that construction workers are saying that we should approve funding as soon as possible. And yet you will have to look at what projects are given funding. For the white elephant projects, they will not create many jobs, and they will only be introducing major machinery and also capital investment. But then jobs, for job creation, that would not generate many jobs. But then for the smaller scale projects, that would create many jobs, and school projects would be the best for creating jobs. That's why we often say that we should approve more funding for creating jobs. But then if you look at it from the employment angle, if we can have smaller scale projects, then that would create more jobs. And we have been saying that we are short of some 10,000 workers, and of course if that can be spaced more evenly, then for the continuous employment opportunities for the construction workers, that would be even better, instead of just bundling them during one specific period, and then you will have to import labor. And if we can distribute that more evenly, that would be better. And roughly speaking, every year we are already talking about some $80 billion, and in the past it used to be some $30 billion. Now it has gone up to some $80 billion. And even if we manage to reduce it by $20 billion, we're still talking about $60 billion. It's about the right scale or right size. For the construction workers in Hong Kong, I think that would be the best, so we don't have to import any workers at all. So what I'm proposing is to ensure that workers will be able to have jobs, and there will be fewer white elephant projects, and that would be the best for the workers. And in fact, it's not good to bundle them together because there would be this bunching effect. Mr. Ip Kwok Him first. Thank you, Chairman. After listening to Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen, he has distorted the logic. He is suggesting that anything to do with people's livelihood should be given priority, and therefore he is proposing this German debate. Why don't you just reject it? And then if you are able to do it, then we'll be able to move on to the livelihood projects, instead of moving this adjournment motion. I think by that you're actually asking the administration to submit it again next time. So at the PWSC, for the opposition camp, they are the majority, and that's the situation, because you're in the majority and you've been able to manipulate everything. So why do we have to have this agenda at all? Why are you still playing with the tricks of moving adjournment motion and so on? So I think this is the best. We can show the public of Hong Kong what is happening here. You should not be saying on the one hand that you're very concerned about people's livelihood and you want to press ahead with the school and other projects, but then as lawmakers we also have to take up a responsibility, what needs to be done and what should not be done. We should have indicated our stance very clearly. Instead of resorting to different means by invoking 32A, and you're standing in the way of the normal operation of this council, I think you're actually putting yourselves at the opposite end of the public. You will have to reflect on yourselves. Hong Kong should not have been grounded to a halt by you like that. And the opposition camp, who is in the minority, and you're trying to stand in the way of this, and you're trying to put pressure on the administration, trying to subdue it, and I think that's really affecting people's livelihood. My advice to you is, please do not resort to such tactic to engage in a non-cooperation campaign, trying to paralyze the operation of a government. I think as lawmakers and as councillors in the opposition camp, you should conduct some soul-searching. Yes, you will have enough votes because the opposition camp has managed to be in the majority in the PWSC. Definitely you'll be able to do whatever you want. So there is no need for you to do this. And if you think that this has nothing to do with people's livelihood, and if you think that it's not necessary because you're in the majority, you can vote it down. And then the administration will have to decide as to what it would like to do. It can also withdraw the item. So you can just continue like that. If you just continue to stand in the way of the government's operation, then the public will be able to see for themselves. Yes, Dr. Lo Wai Kwok, Chairman, I was about to congratulate you because for Whitehead and Lok Washar Road Phase 2, or the way you dealt with it in terms of the timing and the discussion, it was rather normal. And according to the administration's estimate, this year we will have about 89 projects, and there were 21 from the last term, so we will have to deal with about 89 project items. And if we still get bogged down by various rules of procedures in dealing with these items, this is not doing any good to this committee, and not doing any good to the construction sector nor to the community at large. So we have different projects of different scales, and some would be lasting for longer term. So we have hospital projects, school projects, and also infrastructure projects, construction of roads, bridges, water services or waterworks, and even drainage projects. And what we are discussing is the Liantang Hang Yun Wai boundary control point and associated works, and that would include site formation and infrastructure works. In simple terms, they are not just for the benefit of the boundary control point. It's needed by the community at large. So when it comes to relevant roads and sewage works, stormwater collection, and also environmental or amenity projects, well, people or members may have different views on these, but then they can also put questions to the government's officials. You can also oppose to it, but then you are taking advantage of the gray areas of our rules and procedures, and you're wasting time. And I think the public will see for themselves, and they would find it disgraceful and laughable and ridiculous, and it's totally illogical. Chairman, government's public works projects will have to be kept the spending at around $70 billion, and then for public works projects together with projects in the private sector, and if we are talking about a relatively stable situation, then we will have to spend about $170 or $180 billion every year on works projects. And if we continue to stand in the way of much needed project items, then not just the work sector will be affected, Hong Kong people's well-being will also be affected. And this item is a project underway, and we can question whether government departments have been doing their job in terms of the project estimate, but then we will have to discuss it. Next, Dr. K.K. Kwok, and then Leung Chi Chang. Dr. Kwok, Chairman, I support Mr. Lee Cheuk Yen's motion, because many people's livelihood projects, in particular community facilities, schools, works, they should have pressed ahead. And Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen's motion is not to stand in the way of these projects. In fact, what he'd like to do is that for projects that are more closely related to people's livelihood, like schools, hospitals, they should be carried out first. And then for the pro-establishment members, what they like to do is to just do what the administration wants to do, and they are just trying to stir up trouble. And I would like to express my regret about this, and I'd like to put everything back on the right track so that for projects relating to people's livelihood, after the adjournment motion is passed, we can continue to deal with those projects. Yes, Mr. Yip, a point of order. I'd like to clarify this. So he said that we're wagging our tail. What does he mean? So is he suggesting that he was referring to people or members attending the meeting? If that's the case, then I'd say that is a very offensive term. Well, Chairman, I'm not suggesting that anyone is wagging his tail. So I was asking if he was referring to members attending the meeting, wagging their tails, and if that is the case, then I'd like to say that this is very offensive. So, Dr. Kwok, did you refer to anyone at the meeting? No, I was not specifically referring to anybody here, because there were people, and dogs could also be wagging their tails in the streets and everywhere. So I'm not specifically referring to anybody here. So my understanding of what you said is when you said that somebody was wagging his tail, you were not specifically referring to any members participating at the meeting. Am I right? Yes. Mr. Ip, are you satisfied with that answer? Okay. Next, Mr. Leung Chi-Cheung, and then Wong Kok Heng. Leung Chi-Cheung, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen is moving this adjournment motion, and I think the reasoning is very weak. And as we have just said, if it's just about people's livelihood, and if that is the only consideration, then I think the definition has been coined by Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen himself, because for most of the projects here, according to my understanding, well, the administration must have been to different departments, including the district councils, and they might even have gone to the rural committees if it's about projects in the rural areas. So they must have conducted a consultation with the stakeholders, and for works projects they have been to the various panels for initial endorsement before they have come to this subcommittee. And now the ordering is that you are trying to determine which are related to people's livelihood, which are important projects in accordance with your own personal liking. And I'm most concerned that so what kind of state are we in as far as the PWSC is concerned? Are we using people's personal desire as the determining factor, or are we going to go by the majority view in a community in deciding on the priority of items? And also, by moving these adjournment motions, we would be concerned that there might not be any need for us to scrutinize any papers at all. And Mr. Ip Kwok Him was right. All right, you're already in a majority, so if we put everything or anything to the vote, then you will be able to vote them down if you want to. So, and still, you're suggesting that we should not be discussing that at all. So, for the Hung Yun Wai project, well, those in the opposition camp might not be ready to vote it down, or else why are you not willing to discuss that at all? So, because if we put that to the vote, you'll be able to vote it down. So why are you not willing to discuss it here? So are you afraid of putting the matter to the vote? And if you vote it down, then you might be criticized by the public. And if this is not passed, the loss to the administration and to the public will be even greater, because this is a supplementary funding proposal. Of course, I also have queries about certain item breakdown, whether or not they need that much, but then we have to face the reality. With regard to these projects that are greatly needed, we have to indicate our stance. We also have to scrutinize them, but then if we give up on that duty, then what do you mean? So are we not discharging our duty at all? That's why I'm against it.
Mr. Wong Kok Heng, to be followed by Mr. Gary Chan. Mr. Wong, Chairman. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen represents the Labour Party. he is proposing not to carry forward the discussion of this item. I am of the view that he is standing on the opposite side of the construction workers in Hong Kong. And even the engineers and professionals will be made enemies by Mr. Lee. And number 3, he is also working against the interests of all Hong Kong people. These items will be delayed time after time, so the price tag will continue to rise, and taxpayers' money will continue to be spent on these items on a larger scale. At this PWSC, Pan-Democrats are the majority. But if you support Mr. Lee's proposal, then you have hijacked this subcommittee. You are abusing your role as legislators. I hope the audience who are listening in or watching this meeting on radio and on TV, I hope they understand that in Mong Kok now, the administration and the enforcement agencies are enforcing the court's injunction order in order to remove the barricades so that the roads can be reopened to traffic. The same can be said here about the LegCo. The Pan-Democrats are setting up barricades. So we cannot discuss these items on the agenda. We now have the barricades here in the LegCo, so that we have a stacking up of items on the agenda. This is the barricades that we are seeing at LegCo. If we allow this to block meetings, it means we are wasting public money. It means breaking the rice bowls of the workers. It means the industry cannot work on these projects. I hope the public understand that the so-called non-cooperative movement in LegCo is aligned with the barricading of roads outside LegCo. You Pan-Democrats are the majority here, and I think you should always have in mind the interests of the public. Mr. Gary Chan, to be followed by Mr. Chen Kin Po. Mr. Gary Chan, I speak in opposition to Mr. Lee's motion. Why I say this? I have heard Mr. Lee Cheuk Yan and Dr. K.K. Kwok say that they would like to adjourn this item so they can advance livelihood-related items. Well, either the members are not clear about the procedures for PWSC or they only have politics in mind. If you will look at G and H of this paper, if you have been following up on the Lian Tang Hung Yun Wai item, you will know that we need to relocate Chok Yun village. The new reception village has been completed by and large, and they need some complementary facilities, including sewage collection facilities and also some community facilities. Some villagers have moved in and others are waiting to move in. However, if the facilities are yet to be completed, that would mean that they would have no place to move to. This is actually one of the so-called livelihood issues that they say they are concerned about. Is it that they decide not to be aware of this, or they play blind and deaf and only concentrate on their own interest? So, Chairman, I hope our members will understand that, in fact, within this project, there are villages who are affected and they have to move to another village. If the facilities are not completed in the new village, these villages will have nowhere to move to. They will have no home. Mr. Chen Kin Po and then Mr. Wu Chi Wai. Mr. Chen Kin-po. Thank you, Chairman. I heard some members say that when we undertake projects in Hong Kong, we have to consider which projects will be most suited for Hong Kong workers so that we can decide on what projects to embark upon. I think that is unimaginable. You have put aside the interest of the entire Hong Kong when you say this. I understand that we are concerned about budget overrun of many government projects. In fact, the figures are huge. Now, of course, there are different reasons about this. But then if the PWSC delays projects by 1 day, the project cost will go up, and in the end, the public will foot the bill. But legislators have not been increasing their stipend. But then at the same time, Hong Kong people are having to bear a bigger bill day by day. So do you think you can have a clear conscience when you face the public? So I staunchly oppose the motion. Mr. Wu Chi-wai and then Mr. Albert Chan. Mr. Wu Chi-wai first. Thank you, Chairman. At the development panel, I spoke to say that actually this Liantang Hung Yun Wai project, in fact, did not have the urgency of having traffic between 2016 and 2018. We can see a lumping of infrastructural projects. That is why project costs are escalating. In fact, a few projects face the same problem. This is not just our observation. This is also the observation of professional bodies. They have said that the administration has the responsibility to rationalize the ordering of infrastructural projects. Just now, some members said if we are the majority, we can vote down the project. I'd like to ask the government departments this question. Is it that if we carry on a serious discussion of this Liantang Hung Yun Wai project and then we come to a resolution, then you will follow our resolution? And instead of being a bad loser, if we decide to veto this project, will you take the project directly to the Finance Committee? I know you have that authority. But by convention, usually if PWSC vetoes a project, that project will not go directly to the FC. Rather, the administration will have to rewrite the papers. So my question for the administration is, supposing we veto this paper on Liantang Hung Yun Wai, will you withdraw the paper for further processing instead of taking it directly to the FC? I'd like to know whether it is up to Mr. Young or Mr. Lee. Chairman, we are here to listen to the views of members at the PWSC. I'd like to listen to members first before we reply. Well, but I think that is a very important point. If that is what the DS is saying, he seems to be saying that it would be best if you could support it. If not, he would still take the paper directly to the FC. I'd like to clarify I'd like to clarify whether that was what the administration said. This is not what he said just now, but would he like to say something further? I have no supplement, Chairman. Chairman, we'd like to adjourn the motion of the discussion of the paper here. I think that is a very important factor for consideration. If you cannot clarify that point, then objectively, the Pan-Democrats had a lot of views on the Liantang Hung Yun Wai project. If we veto it here and yet you take it directly to FC, then, sorry, time is up. Members, you will know that even the chairman cannot force the administration to say something they are not willing to say. Mr. Albert Chan. Thank you, Chairman. I support adjourning the debate on this item. Basically, all the infrastructural projects face the problem of budget overrun. This is very worrying. And yet, even today, the administration hasn't proposed a way to keep the budgets within limit. I think things have gone out of control. It is like the Midnight Express, which is racing forward without knowing its destination. And maybe it will just derail, causing serious incidents. You are asking for an increase of $8.7 billion. Many years ago, the UST was the subject of budget overrun as well. At that time, the entire Hong Kong was shocked, and we went to the bottom of the matter. But it seems budget overrun has become the order of the day. The pro-establishment camp will always defend the government. They will pay no attention to the causes for the overrun of budget, and they wouldn't want to help the public. You remember just 1 or 2 days ago, 3 people jumped to their death on the same day in Oyman Estate. And we have to be mindful about the plight of the public. You are talking about $8.7 billion. And Mr. Chen Kim-po says we are blind to the interest of the people. The functional constituencies are talking about the interest of the entire public. You are just here to defend the government. You defend the vested interest constituencies. You only defend the interests of the small circle of people who return you to LegCo. A lot of Hong Kong people are in a dire straits, and you are now pretending to have in mind the interests of the public. Just look at your voting record. Just look at your proposals for the budget and the PA. You only defend the interests of the vested interests and also the conglomerates. We must regret this kind of functional constituencies. Thousands and thousands of elderly people have been waiting for institutional care, but many of them die before they get a place. And over 200,000 people are waiting to be housed in public housing. We have given a lot of proposals to the administration, but the administration will not respond because it is sure that with functional constituency members defending them and helping them along the way, everything can be passed. So when we have the power here, we must prevent such budget overruns. Ms. Sitho, I support the motion to adjourn because we must be mindful about Hong Kong's relationship with the vicinity. And Hong Kong's culture is now being eaten up, and there is no consensus as to what can be done. And more, we feel that we must preserve and protect our cultural identity, and we must defend one country, two systems. But many such cross-boundary projects do not have an angle of cultural difference, and you do not consult Hong Kong people on these projects. And here you are asking for a supplement of over 50%. There will be numerous questions on these. The soil situation for the tunnel is so bad. Is it that you did not do enough or not good enough pre-project investigation? That is why there is a big change in the budget. And also, if you have all these infrastructural projects, we do not have enough labor, and you talk about labor importation and labor wages are going up. And then in the end, when you complete all the projects, these people will lose their jobs, and then we'll have an unemployment problem. In fact, we want you to space out infrastructural projects so we can provide employment without shooting up, or without the wages shooting up. And then there are other items in the list: Leming Choi, secondary school expansion, special schools, community halls, the Buddhist hospital expansion, etc. We are more concerned about those projects. We want to walk down that livelihood route faster. You have asked the administration to reorder the agenda, and they were unwilling. So the only way to go is to adjourn the discussion, because we don't want the administration to be doing whatever it wants. We are asking it to advance the non-controversial livelihood items, including hospitals and community halls, to be put to this committee so we can support them as soon as possible. And this one, Liantang Hangyun Wai, is so controversial, and the budget overrun is totally unreasonable. We have a lot of questions for them. We don't want to stand in the way. So I support the motion to adjourn. If there are no further questions from members, yes, Mr. Chen Kim-lam. I think that on this particular item, in terms of project development, we have projects of different scale. But then, for an item which is needed for our future development, it should not be described as a white elephant project. This project is built for the future of Hong Kong, and is also built for the next generation of Hong Kong. Hong Kong's economic development and the enhanced communication with the mainland is of critical importance. If it's like what the opposition camp said just now, then we will only be marginalizing Hong Kong further, thinking that for anything to do with the mainland, they should be severed, and in doing so, we'll be able to build a more independent and autonomous Hong Kong. I think that's simply impossible. The scale of the project when it comes to employment, yes, that will help. And that would be even more important for our future economic development. I believe that no one will say that in order to create jobs, we will try to create projects in order to ensure that more people can be employed. If we want more people to benefit from a particular project, does it mean that we will no longer need the large machinery? What about the leveling of hills and also the other major works? So are we trying to do it all by manual labor without the use of machinery? No, that's not possible. And if you think that this council is like a rubber stamp in approving government's motions, and I think that's also an insult on lawmakers discharging their duties. All right, today at the PWSC, because the opposition camp is in the majority, you can say no to anything you don't like, and you can also move this adjournment debate. Ms. Sito said that she has many questions. Then why doesn't she ask them? Because this is a positive attitude. This is a more realistic attitude. If you have questions, just ask them. If you just postpone anything without dealing with them, then you're actually neglecting your duties. I hope that you will understand that, for Rule 33, nobody is allowed to speak for more than once. So that's the PWSC procedure. So if you want to speak for a second time, and if I've not called your name, then you should understand it. Yes, Mr. Tam Yu Chong, Chairman for the Liantang Hangyun Wai BCP project. It's been discussed time and again in this council, and now, and indeed, we have already given them funding, and they are now here for supplementary funding. And the purpose of this is to provide convenience to the people of Hong Kong, so that there would be an additional BCP for entry and exit, and that would also help improve the local environment, and that would also help foster the economic development in Hong Kong. And I hope that lawmakers would understand that, and it is generally supported by the public. The works have started, and we can also say that we have already got our hands wet. So I think instead of blocking the project, we should have spent more time asking the administration why it is now seeking additional funding. If we do not discuss it, then what do we mean? And the only meaning is that I will be able to drag it further.
So what's the consequence of delaying it? And as Mr. Gary Chen just said, by delaying the time, it would also affect the local villages. And by delaying the time, it means that the administration might have to increase funding further, because for project costs, we all understand that they will only go up if there are more delays, and the longer we delay it, the more we're going to spend on it. So in doing so, that's not going to do good to the community, and it would only increase the burden on the public. Why is it that the Democrats are doing this at all? So are they doing harm to the community? They often say that they attach importance to people's livelihood, but then if you look at what they have done, they are actually damaging or harming public interest, and therefore for those who are watching the live broadcast or listening to our proceedings, if the Democrats are in the majority, then Hong Kong really will collapse. Because often a time when you hear their criticism, when they do not have any further questions, when they have nothing better to say, then they will just delay the meeting, and they'll just criticize the pro-establishment members or the FC members in order to delay the time. Well, concerning integration between Hong Kong and the mainland economically, it would also do good to Hong Kong. And if we do not need any bilateral complementary economic development, I think that would also do harm to Hong Kong, because Hong Kong would be brought down the wrong track. Therefore, I hope that, yes, when it's put to the vote, because they are in the majority, they have more people, they would definitely be able to delay the discussion on this item. If there are no further requests from members to speak, then I'd like to invite the administration to respond. Yes, Mr. Yeung? Yes. Mr. Yeung? Well, just now some members talk about the ordering of the items. I'd like to respond to that. Well, at the last session, there were 21 backlogged items at the PWSC, and all of them are very pressing. And on the agenda for the backlogged items, if you look at their ordering, basically is arranged in accordance with the timing when they were first submitted to the PWSC, and the ordering also reflected the considered view on the importance, the urgency, and also the consultation process and so on before we determine on the priority of the items. And this priority setting was a pragmatic work, because we hope that all the items could be scrutinized as soon as possible, and the ordering would not be rescheduled because of the scope of a particular project, and then they would be given top priority. If you look at the 21 backlogged items, actually they include some school projects, as mentioned by some members just now, and these items have been subject to a delay of some 6 months already. And in order to reduce the impact of such delays to these school projects, in October and November this year, for 4 school projects, we have already started the tendering, and after we receive the bids, we will start the vetting process. In other words, these 4 projects have yet to receive the bidding documents, and the validity of the tender documents would be until July next year or August next year. And if the tendering process is smooth, and if we are able to get FC funding, then in the middle of next year, we'll be able to start the school works. Relatively speaking, on the agenda of the PWSC, there are several items. Out of the 7 items here, 4 have already started the tendering process earlier on. They include Item 3, Liantang, Hengyin Wai, BCP and associated works. The additional funding being sought is for the purpose. And this item is not just related to works that are expected to be completed in 2018. That's the Liantang BCP. And one of the important projects contracts will expire on the 31st of December this year. And then item 5 and 6 on the agenda, that's the Kowloon East Regional Headquarters and Operational Base Ngau Tau Kok Divisional Police Station. And item 6, road improvement works for West Kowloon Reclamation Development Phase 1. The bidding documents would be expiring in April and May next year, respectively. In other words, they will be even sooner than the expiry of the school projects. And if we are not able to get funding in time, then we will have to retender those projects, and there will be further delays to these projects, and the cost will go up further. I'd like to reiterate that for all the backlogged items, they have to do with the long-term development of this community and also people's livelihood. I earnestly urge all members to scrutinize all the items expeditiously. Thank you. Okay, I'll now put the motion to the vote that this committee resolves to adjourn the discussion on PWSC 2014-15-33. Will those in favor please raise their hands? Mr. Ip claims a division, and the bell will ring for 5 minutes.
Please proceed to vote. Please press the button to indicate your presence and then press one of the other 3 buttons in order to register your stance on the motion, whether you're for, against, or whether you're abstaining from voting. Mr. Wu Chi-wai, you have not voted. Before I declare the voting results, would members please verify their votes? Voting is now closed, and the results are displayed. 34 members present, 19 for, 14 against. So the motion is carried. Next item. PWSC 2014-15, 34 members are invited to recommend to the Finance Committee for upgrading of 751CL to Category A at an estimated cost of $100.5 million in money of the day prizes for carrying out a planning and engineering study on Sunny Bay reclamation and associated site investigation works. The establishment, the administration consulted the development panel on the 22nd of April. Most members agreed that the item should be submitted to this subcommittee for discussion, and the gist of the discussion at the panel has been submitted to the meeting today. Can I ask the administration to take us through the paper briefly, please? Yes, Chairman? Chairman? Yes, Mr. Hon. I'd like to walk you briefly through this project. 751CL proposes to do a detailed engineering study on Sunny Bay reclamation. This is a project that has been proposed as one of the 5 nearshore reclamation projects. In the second stage public engagement, the public were generally in support to have reclamation for residential and tourism facilities and also to help form a land bank. The members of the public asked us to pay particular attention to the possible impact on marine ecology and environment arising from reclamation. We hope to start this project as soon as possible so we can carry out a detailed engineering study so we can do market analysis and positioning for the different industries. We'll also like to provide possibility for high-tech and advanced technologies, including certification and testing. And actually, the reclamation area will be affected by NEF 25. And initially speaking, we might not be able to develop land uses here which are noise sensitive, including housing and schools. And also, there is a height restriction of 100 to 180 mpd. Also, there is a height restriction also in the nearby areas used for tourism. We will take a detailed look on the possible impact on the fishing industry and also on marine ecology. I'd like to see if members would like to ask any questions on the paper. Mr. Albert Chan. Thank you, Chairman. This is a very controversial project. If the administration will remember, in the 90s, especially after the commissioning of the Chelapkok Airport, development on North Lantau was subject to a big change because the administration underestimated the aviation noise level. And residents have been exposed to such nuisance for over 10 years. And in fact, the administration has only done things that are perfunctory in nature in tackling aviation noise. At Sunny Bay, it is actually a disaster area vis-a-vis noise. There was a plan to develop a new housing area to house 50,000 people in North Lantau and Silho Wan, but that was scrapped because of the noise problem. When C.Y. Leung came to office, he again mentioned projects for North Lantau, but he said nothing about aviation noise. He was not proposing to do anything about it. Maybe they know nothing about this, or they have forgotten that painful lesson in history. Now you want to push through this project at Sunny Bay. You remember the mangroves were burned down at Sunny Bay, and there was nothing you did to stop indigenous villages from doing that. Indigenous villages said they were concerned about the community, but then they were fighting you, and they were burning down the mangroves. And now you even propose to reclaim land from the sea there. I'm sure the villagers will stand up against you. So I think this is maladministration. You have not been paying attention to the problems. And also, I'm sure there will be a disaster caused to the mariculturists at Ma Wan. The Ma Wan mariculturists have objected to the project. At North Lantau, you built a highway and you caused losses to the mariculturists to the tune of millions of dollars, and you were inefficient and incapable in your monitoring work, and the mariculturists did not have any mechanism to seek damages. So I think we have a load of problems attending this project, and I don't think it should come before this PWSC. And according to Para 33, I'd like to propose a motion to adjourn the discussion on this item. Mr. Albert Chan, according to paragraph 33 of the Public Works Subcommittee procedure, moves a motion to request the subcommittee to adjourn the discussion on PWSC bracket 2014 to 1534. And according to paragraph 33 of the Public Works Subcommittee procedure, a member can speak once on the motion, but not make a speech for longer than any time period as decided by the subcommittee. I would propose that every member should not speak more than 3 minutes because of time constraint. You should press the request to speak button or raise your hand to indicate your intention to speak. Anyone? Some members have chosen to raise their hands. Oh, there is a systemic problem. Who raised his hand first? I was watching the screen, but there was a problem with the system. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng first, and Mr. Ip Kwok here, Mr. Chan Han Pan, Mr. Chan Kin Po. Did I miss anybody? Okay, that will be the order. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng? Chairman. Just now, the DS, Mr. Young Tek Kang, said very clearly already that this application is such that the tender papers would expire in April next year. Is that right, Mr. Young? The public know that there is urgency for this project. If Mr. Albert Chan is proposing to adjourn the debate of this item, then it is just new wine in an old bottle. It is the same thing Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen was trying to do. Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen was trying to move a motion to take care of the entire batch of papers. But now it is Mr. Albert Chan who is making this motion. So it's nothing new. The public can see that the opposition camp seeks to oppose these items. And they are not even giving a good reason to do so. They are not explaining why they want to oppose these items. They are not giving any reason. They are quite arbitrary in what they do. They are not advancing any reasons that make sense. If you want to veto them, just veto them. If you want to question the officials, do it. Why do you want to adjourn the discussion? I think you are abusing your powers as legislators. As I said about the last item, You are setting up barricades to block the road. So items that should be discussed at LegCo are not given the green light, and items that should be voted upon cannot be voted upon. I hope members of the public can see this outrageous situation at LegCo. I hope you can see that the LegCo is wasting parliamentary time and also resources of the public. The pro-establishment camp has done our best to defend public interest. But here at the Public Subcommittee, since we are the minority, we can only cry at the top of our voices to point out the problems, but there is no way we can stop them from adjourning the discussion. I hope members of the public can see this unreasonable state of affairs. Members, according to the electronic system, Mr. Chan Han Pan is next. So if you don't mind, Mr. Chan Han Pan will speak before Mr. Ip Kwok Him. Thank you, Chairman. As legislators, we have a duty to discuss, debate, and then make decisions. But Mr. Albert Chan has moved the motion, but he has gone out of the room. I think that is quite irresponsible. He said many things, and I heard him say that the mariculturists at Ma Wan objected to the item. I actually took part in that discussion, and I know the administration placed emphasis on the interests of the Ma Wan mariculturists. A meeting was held with them, and just now I went out and I called the Ma Wan mariculturist representative, and the person said no, they had reached agreement with the administration. So basically, Mr. Albert Chan is telling a lie, or he is just not in the picture. I hope Pan-Democrat members will not be cheated by Mr. Albert Chan. I think what Mr. Chan said has been quite irresponsible. He cited other people saying that they objected to the item, but then he himself is not even here. Very often, the Pan-Democrats would say there are not enough jobs on Lantau, especially in Tung Chung. And now we want to have reclamation in Sunny Bay so that we can introduce commercial activities. And aviation noise has been taken into consideration. Unlike what Mr. Chan said, that people cannot live there because of aviation noise. In fact, we have not talked about housing in that area. We were talking about developing commercial activities to give people jobs on Lantau. It was said that Tung Chung offers no jobs, and people have to travel very far to go to Tung Chung. And now we are trying to create jobs. However, he is now proposing to shelve this item. I think the Pan-Democrats are just engaging in a non-cooperative campaign. What does that mean? That means they will not cooperate, they will not do anything, and in the end they want to paralyze the council. And members of the public can see they are paralyzing the council, and the agenda will just drag on.
All right. The price will go further up if there is further delay, and in the end, who will suffer? It will be the public who will suffer. And then in this council, and in particular in this subcommittee, the Pan-Democrats are in the majority. You are the ruling party, and now this is the dire consequence. So I hope that the Pan-Democrats will take up your courage and vote down the motion. Ip Kwok Him and then Chan Kin Po. Mr. Ip Kwok Him. Thank you, Chairman. I believe that with the Pan-Democrats blindly supporting the motion, the adjournment motion, will be unlikely to be voted down. Again, it shows that these have to do with Hong Kong's development, and yet they have been unreasonably blocked by the opposition camp. I hope that the public will be able to see for themselves what is happening. And I also call upon those pan-democrats who have a conscience not to support this motion because they are standing in the way of the development of Hong Kong. All right, if you do not agree, then just use your courage and vote it down so that you can set out the reasons why you're against it. In any case, you are in the majority, you'll be able to vote it down if you don't like it. So why are you resorting to such tactics to move this adjournment motion? And after you've moved the motion, you don't even bother to stay behind to engage in the debate, and you just go out. You just went out. We have to know that this is the Legislative Council. We have to be accountable to our voters. So the public who are listening, you will have to see clearly, and I also call upon the pan-democrats who have a conscience not to support this adjournment motion. Thank you. Mr. Chan Kin Po, and then Christopher Chung, and then Lo Wai Kwok. Chairman, I regret that Albert Chan has gone now because he was criticizing the functional constituency members. That's why I'd like to refute it. And now I have a chance to say it. Number one, I'm against Albert Chan, who has been misleading the public by smearing or bad-mouthing the functional constituency members. In fact, we have played a critical role in this council. We also defend people's livelihood, and thousands of elders would not be able to get a chance to get a place in the RCHE, and they would also not be able to see a doctor in a clinic. In fact, the real reason for this is that we have not been able to face up to the real issue. That is, Albert Chan has committed all those, and yet he's criticizing us. And also he said that for public housing, people have been waiting for a long time, and yet he has a pan-democratic ally who is earning more than $90,000, and yet he's resorting to various tactics, and still he stay on in his public rental flat. So please do not mislead the public. And third, many people from the pro-establishment camp are directly elected members, and therefore when you criticize us, you're actually criticizing whoever is in the camp, irrespective of whether or not he is from the FC or GC, and he just left after he had moved the motion. Once again, I'd like to condemn them because they are actually incurring loss, and there would also be serious delay. The reason why Hong Kong's projects are costing so much, you will have to see for yourselves. That's because in the process there have been undue delays. For example, for the artificial island in the central waters, for one reason or another, the administration has been forced to withdraw it, and then there will be a delay by a year or so, and then the project cost would go up by more than $10 million, and then if it's further delayed by another year, then we will not be able to identify another site for major infrastructure works. So how can Hong Kong people win? And therefore you will have to know the true face of these people. We also have to understand that the FC is playing a very important role. We are stabilizing Hong Kong so that we will not be biased, so that the other side will not be able to do whatever they want. Christopher Chung, and then Lo Wai Kwok. Christopher Chung. Thank you, Chairman. Albert Chan. All right, you're back again. So you just like to start a fire, and then you just go. Yesterday, Mong Kok was in chaos, and then at 9 o'clock he just left. This is his usual tactic. All right, you're telling lies. All right, for Ma Wan fishermen representatives, met them on different occasions here, and some of them have actually accepted the ex gratia payment. So why would they oppose this project? All right, you're just using this as an excuse to adjourn the debate. Chairman, they are actually asking for an adjournment on every item, so your work is very easy. So what's the point of having this subcommittee in the first place? So why don't we just disband the PWSC? So I'd like to move a motion at the FC to dissolve this PWSC so that everything will just go straight to the FC. All right, having you as chairman of the PWSC, you're just chairing over a debate on adjournment. So you're just an adjournment chairman. So as you can see, in 2017, we're going to have universal suffrage. The central authorities are imposing this threshold. Why do we have to have screening? All right, we're just talking about a very small group like this, and they've resorted to various tactics, and they have been able to usurp the power. And now they are trying to manipulate everything. So they are exhausting all their powers, and they are making use of the rules and procedures, and they are actually exercising or practicing council violence. So you're not allowing people to speak. So if you were to become the chief executive, if you would become the majority of the entire council and you become the ruling party, what is going to happen to Hong Kong? What's going to happen to the public of Hong Kong? So we will have to have our heads rolling, right? So this is what I mean to be council violence. The reason why in 2017 we have to have so many restrictions, why they have not abided by the law, and they are not even able to clear the site, even with an injunction, is totally ignored and neglected. And even for the shields, they have been removed, and they are actually causing injuries to the police. All right, they are clearing the site. Why don't you just leave? All right, on that occasion, they are not able to block the debates. That's why they have been exercising or practicing violence. And now you're also practicing violence here. In fact, they are not filibustering. All right, they are delaying things. But then they are actually practicing council violence by preventing us from discussing anything at all. So they have done this time and again. Why don't we just dissolve this subcommittee? Thank you. Lo Wai Kwok. Thank you, Chairman. Mr. Albert Chan has moved this adjournment motion. Whether or not he's here, I'm not concerned about it at all. I don't care, because he has been talking about people's livelihood time and again. But then for things that have to do with people's livelihood, these are important projects, and yet he's standing in the way of these projects. And therefore there is no point in me arguing with him. I do not have to explain or justify anything to him. Well, my justification is that as far as the engineering sector is concerned, and I'm explaining things to the public, to other fellow lawmakers, and also those stakeholders. In fact, this project has been subject to 2 rounds of public consultation, and there were many public discussions, and we believe that these are the sites that are more feasible. So this item is about the planning and engineering study on Sunny Bay reclamation. So it's just a study. And you might also have noticed that in an enclosure 2 to the paper, it says out that in the stage 2 public engagement exercise, there were certain views that have been collected. So here is a summary of the views, and that would also increase the land reserve, and there would also be more residential development, in particular public rental housing, which is most supported. And there are other major supported land uses covering commercial and also other uses. For example, we can also develop a theme park, dining facilities, and tourist destinations, and so on. And of course, there are also concerns about the surrounding environment. On the one hand, reclamation work will increase jobs in order to ease the housing problem, and that would also help the local community in terms of economic development, and therefore is beneficial to the local community. And then on marine ecology, ecological conservation, noise nuisance, and so on, there were concerns precisely in the study. These concerns can be addressed, and with that they can also be planned, so that if the reclamation were to take place in the future, then we'll be able to take care of both land use needs and also the community's needs, as well as the needs of the local community economy. And at the same time, we'll be able to maintain the nice landscape in order to meet the conservation requirements. So the motion to adjourn the debate on this item will absolutely be at the opposite end of people's well-being, and this is not logical. And as I just said, we are actually practicing council violence to stand in the way of these necessary projects, and this is the illicit tactic being deployed. And Chiang, Chairman, as we all know, Hong Kong's property prices are very high, and one of the reasons is that we have a scarcity of land and a very dense population. That's why in the past 2 years, the administration has been working very hard in identifying sites that are available for putting up more flats. In particular, public rental flats or HOS flats, or flats that are suitable for first-time home buyers. And yet, if you look at the situation, we have the pan-democrats and those in the opposition camp. Well, when you talk about developing anti-Northeast, they say no to it. And when it comes to Lantau, they said that certain places should not be developed. And we also have many green belts. So is it okay to take out some of those green belts for residential development? Again, they say no to that. And then the administration is trying to conduct a study on the Sunny Bay reclamation project, and we are just asked to give them $100 million or so. Why can't it be done? As we all know, some political parties saw that a couple of days ago there was some violent incidents, and then immediately they tried to disassociate themselves with those in the movement. So, Chairman, I hope that you will try your best to appeal to the more rational members, so that for those who are practicing this violence, so that you should disassociate yourselves from him, and then you should vote against his motion. Ms. An Jiang, with regard to your compliments to me, I do admire that. I'm flattered, but then I'm not supposed to cast my vote here unless there is a tie. Okay, if there are no further members who would like to speak, then administration, your response, please. Who would like to respond? Yes, Mr. Han. Chairman, let me say a few words in my response to the motion moved by Mr. Albert Chen. I think he made a number of points on the environment. First of all, I'd like to say that just now some members have already said that in 2011, we did a more detailed land supply study, and we also did a very detailed public engagement exercise, and then in the process, we managed to reach a consensus. That is, Hong Kong is in dire need of more land resources, and we conducted a questionnaire survey, and some 80% of the respondents felt that Hong Kong indeed needs more land for housing, economic development, and also improvement of the quality of life. So we need land to do that, and more than half of the respondents felt that Hong Kong needs to do that through different ways, including reclamation. And the reason why the administration has been suggesting reclamation, because in the past, reclamation used to be a very important way of increasing land supply. And since the 1980s, once every 5 years, we would be able to create some 500 to 700 hectares of land. But then in the last 10 years, we have basically stopped that altogether. In fact, reclamation means that we can create a large piece of land, and it will be totally owned by the administration, and the development speed could be fast. And of course, in the public engagement exercise, we've also received a message that is the implication on the environment and the community would be significant. And therefore, after considering these factors very carefully in the central waters, as we just discussed, that is, we'd like to have this artificial island being reclaimed in the central waters. And then for the 5 reclamation sites, we have chosen them. And as far as Sunny Bay is concerned, the impact on the environment and the community would be relatively small. That's why many people are of the view, as Dr. Lo Wai Kwok just showed you in enclosure 2, those are the views that we have collected in the public engagement exercise. Mr. Albert Chen also raised a number of issues. That is, in Sunny Bay, with regard to aircraft noise. Yes, we are aware of that, but then we also hope that the council will note this. That is, basically, we are considering the construction of the 3rd runway, and they've already completed an EIA, and also the NEF 25 will be adjusted.
In that study, if we can have funding support from members, we will consider the latest NEF 25 alignment from the AA report. But as I said, we need to attend to aviation noise. If there is noise-sensitive development like housing and schools, perhaps we should not situate them there at the moment, but we can look at that again in the next stage detailed study. As for Ma Wan mariculturists, as a member said, we met with them, we know their concerns, and we undertook that we will continue to liaise with them when we do the 2nd stage detailed study. They know the project, they have not objected to it. As for mangroves, there is a 1 kilometer distance between the proposed project site and the mangroves. I don't know whether people are felling the mangroves there, but then the mangroves and also the marine ecology would be a subject that we would look at in the second stage detailed study. That is my response, please. Thank you. Now I would put this item to the vote. Sorry, Mr. Albert Chan. How much time do I have to reply? I have not spoken. In fact, I still have my 3 minutes. Well, then yes, go ahead. First of all, I'd like to thank the members for speaking, and I thank Mr. Christopher Chung for showing concern about when I left Mong Kok. I think there would be no other member who would have spent more time than me in Mong Kok. Right. I absolutely admit I contributed a lot to Mong Kok, Chairman. It's just like I also know I have contributed greatly to this council. I have mobilized members to filibuster, and the DAB members have acted in a way to also support my filibuster because you have spoken. I think more people are identifying themselves with this tactic. On this issue, I'm very happy to hear from Mr. Christopher Chung say on behalf of DAB that mariculturists support the project. I hope mariculturists in Ma Wan have heard that DAB members have said that you support the project. If you do not agree with what the DAB have said, or that if the fishermen do not agree with what the representative has said, then you know the situation, and you must have your eyes peeled for the possible impact caused by the reclamation. The Ma Wan mariculturists that I have met do not support this project. Maybe we have contacted different people. So there is a reason why the DAB and the People's Power are always on different sides, because we have been in contact with the grassroots fishermen. I have met with Ma Wan mariculturists. They were all very worried. Starting in the 1990s, there was reclamation to create the highway in North Lantau, and then there was reclamation for Chelap Kok, and also reclamation at Penny's Bay. Ma Wan mariculturists all suffered from those projects, and they lost millions of dollars. And in fact, this reclamation at Sunny Bay would be closest to the Ma Wan mariculturists, and you tell me they support the project. I'm talking about Penny's Bay, the North Lantau reclamation, and also Chelap Kok Airport. Ma Wan mariculturists have also registered their concern and worries about reclamation for the third runway. How can you tell me that they support this project? I think it's ridiculous. I hope we can give more time for the administration to do consultation and planning. Very often, the administration has turned a blind eye to the very painful lessons of history. I hope members will support the motion so we will not rush into starting such projects, and I hope we will not be misled by the pro-establishment camp and rush through such projects that would harm the community's interest. I will now put the motion to the vote that this subcommittee decide to adjourn the discussion on PWSC 2014-15-34. Those in favor, Mr. Ip Kok Him claims a division. The bell will ring for 5 minutes.
票上次咁啦，另有決定。即係第二項。得你揭翻嗰度俾我睇，嗰個 script 啊。呢度，最後嗰度，呢度咪最後。咁啊排唔到啦。FC 都排到呢項咯，有排咪都。人唔知批幾多條啊？好似合劑都幾百條啊嘛。嗱，提一提大家，我哋將
I'd like to remind members that in about 10 seconds we will be voting on Mr. Albert Chan's motion to adjourn the discussion on the Sunny Bay item.
而家開始表決。
Please proceed to vote. Please press the button to indicate your presence first, and then one of the other three buttons to indicate your stance. Before I announce the voting results, please check your votes. Voting is closed, and the results are displayed. 36 present, 24, 15 against. The result is that the motion is carried. Next, we need to process PWSC 2015 14 to 1535. Kowloon East Regional Headquarters and Operational Base, Outer Kok Divisional Police Station. Members are invited to recommend to the Finance Committee the upgrading of 237 LP to Category A at an estimated cost of $2964.9 million in money of the day prices for the construction of Kowloon East Regional Headquarters and Operational Base, Outer Kok Division Police Station. The administration consulted the security panel in March this year. I'd like to see whether the administration would like to introduce the paper. Yes, please. Sorry, I have yet to find the name list. Mrs. Millie Ng, Principal Assistant Secretary for Security. Good morning, Chairman and members. Today, we'd like to submit this paper to ask for funding support for the construction of the Kowloon East Regional Headquarters and Operational Base Outao Kok Divisional Police Station. The purpose of this project is to align with the very fast development in West Kowloon. We can see many projects in West Kowloon have been constructed and also many of them are being planned. Kai Tak, Anderson Road, and also Kwun Tong Town Center redevelopment. In East Kowloon now, the transient population exceeds 400,000 people. If I talk about Kai Tak development alone, it is estimated that 90,000 people will live there and the transient population will exceed 200,000. So we can see that East Kowloon is a place of very fast development. In terms of police deployment, at the Kowloon East Regional Headquarters now, they do not have any headquarters building, but other regional headquarters have their own regional headquarters building. This is important for management and operational deployment and also operational efficiency. At the Kowloon East Regional Headquarters, their management unit and operational units, they are now scattered around East Kowloon. Some are in Cheung Kwan O, some are in Ma On Shan, and some in Kwun Tong. This is not conducive to operational efficiency, especially in responding to the public's call for police assistance. And with regard to the construction of the Kowloon East Regional Headquarters project, we consulted the District Council in the first half of 2013. We consulted 4 district councils, Kwun Tong, Sai Kung, Wong Tai Sin, and Kowloon City. District councils were all in support of the project, and many district councillors asked the administration to start the project as soon as possible. If we have the support of the PWSC and also funding support from FC, we expect to commence the project in February 2015 for completion in mid-2018. This is my introduction. Thank you. Now, first of all, I need to deal with one issue. The clock shows 10:28, only 2 more minutes to the end of the meeting. Unlike the other subcommittees, I am at your disposal. I need a collective decision by the subcommittee. Would any member object to extending the meeting by 15 minutes by me? If not, I can do it. Those members who would like to speak are Albert Ho and Fernando Zhang. Albert Ho. Chairman, as many members would expect, we would again move an adjournment to stop the discussion on this item for a very simple reason. This project has no urgency.
There are many projects which should be implemented right away. And I'm concerned that with so many projects underway, well, some have been approved and they are already underway. And within the short term, if there are further projects to be executed or implemented, then that would have a lot of impact on our labor market. Well, I suppose that you're using your 3 minutes already, Mr. Ho. Yes, that's why. That's one of the reasons. And second, in particular, this is a project involving the police. And there is no urgency at all to this. As we can see, the police, in particular last night, you can see what they have done in the clearance operations. All right, they have welded a lot of force. So do we really have this urgency to increase the facilities for the police? So a lot of questions will have to be asked. We are not saying that in the end we'll be voting it down, but then we have to ask a lot of questions. And there are many things that have to be dealt with early. And yet the administration is not willing to advance these projects or items for discussion, including special schools, childcare centers, and also elderly centers, and so on. Chairman, I'd also like to take the opportunity to give an overall response to some pro-establishment members who have been criticizing the Pan-Democrats one after another for moving such adjournment motions. In particular, many said that, all right, you are not just blocking the streets, you're actually practicing council violence and you're trying to stand in the way of these projects, damaging the interests of a community. In fact, if you heard what they said, they are actually putting the cart before the horse. They are actually substituting the results as if they were the reasons. In fact, the entire political system is distorted. Sorry, your time is up. Why is it that you're shutting the microphone of Mr. Albert Ho? So my microphone was shut. So when we are not able to act in accordance with the original timetable, how come? Well, when earlier on, it should have been about 2 minutes. So you only have 15 seconds left. Chairman, please continue. Please continue. As we can see, if the system is distorted, so there is this systemic violence. This is a norm, and we are having this day in, day out. And when they see that they are in the minority, now they can feel that if they are subject to such suppression when they are in the minority, then they would be able to understand it. But then that's the tactic that they've been using, and they are making use of the distorted system, and they are actually practicing systemic violence. But what we are trying to do today is that we are not just saying that as we are in the majority, we are trying to do this. We are just trying to give priority to projects that would have a direct impact to the that will have a direct impact on the well-being of the disadvantaged groups. Please do not blame it on our using our position as the majority. In fact, there is this systemic distortion. And as Mr. Tang Yok-sing said, if we do not resolve this problem, then we are not able to resolve all the problems at all. All right, I think you have already been given more time. The electronic system did stop for a while. That's why we did not have a timer. That's why we were not able to count the time. Mr. Ip Kwok Him, Chairman, we are already overrunning. Will we be able to move motions after we have already overrun on the time? Well, he was just speaking. He has yet to move this motion. All right, we have already exceeded the scheduled time. So can you make a ruling on whether or not we would be permitted to move such motions? Well, Mr. Ho was saying that in accordance with para 33 of the PWSC procedures, he'd like to move a motion on adjournment, and that was before 10:30. And indeed, if it was done after 10:30, there would be this gray area. But then, as he has done so before 10:30, and I already consulted members as to whether or not we would be allowed to extend the meeting by 15 minutes. Sorry, speaker's not coming through. All right, it's okay because 3 more members would like to speak: Christopher Chung, Chen Kam Lam, and Gary Fan. So we'll be using the remaining time to allow them to speak. Fernando Cheung, I saw you raising your hand, but then I couldn't see your name because the system is not functioning properly. All right, Fernando Cheung should have followed Albert Ho, but then I didn't see his name. Your name has disappeared too. All right, so you will have to line up again. So your name will be after Gary Fan. Fernando Cheung. Thank you, Chairman. Because I already read out his name, if you've noticed. I've actually read out his name. The electronic system is not functioning. I'm not blaming it. You can ask the secretary. You can ask the clerk. In fact, the system is not functioning properly today. Okay, Christopher Chung, you first. I'm sure Dr. Fernando Cheung wouldn't mind. Okay, Michael Tian, is it a point of order? I pressed the button just now, and now that I am at the bottom of the queue, I would not have time, so you will have to wait till the next meeting. But then when I press the button, I should have been able to speak. But then at least 3 members should be allowed to speak before you. So I should be the 4th. All right, Christopher Chung first. Thank you, Chairman, for your boon. All right. As I've been saying, you're an adjournment chairman because on every item we have an adjournment motion carried. But then on this occasion, Mr. Albert Chan was right because last night we had the police clearing the site in Mong Kok. That's why he's moving this adjournment motion to stop the police project. I think he's actually retaliating on the police for personal reasons. But then as lawmaker, should he be allowed to do that? But then he would just tell people that they could ignore the injunction orders. And yesterday it was a private injunction order. Of course, he's not happy with that, and therefore he's trying to retaliate. And now he's trying to block the Kowloon East Regional Headquarters project. All right, that's understood. And yesterday, according to press reports, it's really pretty outrageous. All right, the Democratic Party actually had links with the triads, and they even invited them to this council building for a meeting. So there is no way that we can discuss this any further. So we know very clearly as to where they stand. They are standing on the side of the crimes, and if the police would like to carry out any alteration works and so on, they would definitely be blocking them. All right, if we have so many adjournment motions, then I think there is no point in continuing with this meeting. All right, for the opposition camp and the Pan-Democrats, you like to commit suicide. Chairman, are you listening? Are you paying attention to me at all? So as the opposition camp likes to commit suicide, then why don't you just kill this subject altogether? Why don't you just kill this subcommittee altogether? All right, you're so familiar with the agenda, and you can see that in the rules and procedures, you have no power to cast any votes. All right, can you see that in the procedures, you can dissolve this subcommittee altogether? So would you be permitted to do that? No, I don't think so. Well, you can do whatever you want. So you said that you would not be allowed to cast your vote, even though I couldn't see any rules preventing you from voting. But then it's now very clear that whenever there are government projects, they will be blocked. And then for police projects, they will also be blocked. That's because the police are clearing these sites. I think that's the way the council is operated. All right, if the opposition becomes the ruling party, then Hong Kong will have no good luck. So Hong Kong will have hard luck. All right, as you're interpreting the procedures, well, the chairman of the PWSC will not be allowed to cast his vote. That's in paragraph 39. All right, as I said, the system showed that Fernando Cheung should be one of the first to speak, so I'll be giving the turn to Fernando Cheung. All right, we are from a different level of Christopher Chung. All right, he always wants to have a say. All right, he's always a bully, and that's why it's quite a reflection of the attitude of the pro-establishment camp. And very rarely at the PWSC, we, for the time being, are in the majority. That's why it would be difficult for them to put up with that. That is, originally they are quite a bully, and they would be able to have their say whenever they want. And on this occasion, I think it's important for us to move this adjournment motion, because if you look at what the police have done in a series of social incidents, I think the public are already having this view on the political neutrality of the police. we do have serious doubts about your neutrality yesterday and last night, and even now. We can see that originally the police claimed that you're just there to assist the bailiffs in executing this civil injunction order. You are not there to clear the site, but then we can see that you've been using force to clear the sites, and that's still underway. And for such acts of force and for such acts of violence, they should be condemned. They should be subject to condemnation. Is totally unwarranted, is totally unnecessary. And now you're applying for a regional headquarters and operational base. We support that the police should maintain law and order, and you should enforce the law in order to maintain order. But then on the one hand, you're claiming that you're just providing assistance on the side, and the bailiffs have already left, and the residents or the citizens are just standing on the roads, and you're clearing the sites. So are you really executing the injunction orders? Obviously, you have gone far beyond what you're supposed to do. Yesterday, long hair Mr. Long Kwok Hong was standing by my side, and we were both pushed by the police officers, and then all of a sudden you made an arrest, and I witnessed there personally. So why has this happened? And it's not that we did not cooperate. We were there at the scene, and we were trying to maintain order ourselves, and we were trying to leave together with the other protesters. And if you look at the violence that took place last night, it was even more shocking. So if we have been supporting the police, and yet the police are treating the peaceful demonstrators as if they were mobsters or rioters. So you have become the political tool of CY Leung. I hope that you will go back and reflect on yourselves. All right, Fernando Cheung, you commented, according to my clock, you only have about 2 minutes 30 seconds. So would you like to use the time or wait till next time, Mr. Chan Kam Lam? Yes, Chairman, Fernando Cheung said that Christopher Chung was quite a bully. In fact, I'm sure Hong Kong people will see for themselves that how can his behavior be more bullying than Fernando Cheung and the other members. They have blocked the major roads of Hong Kong for 60 days. So this is a blatant flouting of the law. So that has caused the rift in our society and the disorder in our society. And this kind of bully behavior is something that Hong Kong people are most infuriated about. And Albert Ho is now moving this adjournment motion so that we will not be allowed to discuss the issue. And he has come up with some new views. And he said that this is a systemic distortion. In fact, in the past, if you look at Hong Kong's development, the fact that we have managed to achieve and accomplish so much, winning worldwide acclaim, that's because of our system. But the thing is, today, the opposition camp has staged this non-cooperation campaign, and they are comprehensively waging this acts against the operation of this council to the extent that we have been bogged down and we are grounded to a halt without anything being done. This is really regrettable. And if you said that that's because of the clearance operation last night, and that's the reason why you have to oppose this item, because it's about increasing the facilities or the gear for the police. I think this is unwise, because we need the police to maintain law and order in our community. We need the law enforcement agents to be able to act in accordance with the law so that the rule of law can prevail. And if that's the reason why you reject the police proposal, then that would be like Hong Kong ruining the rule of law itself, and therefore we are against the motion. I think you've managed to control the time very well. All right, we have passed the Ma On Shan development plan, the Whitehead and La Washa project. So my question is, does any member want to request that this item be voted separately at the FC?
Sorry. There is no such request. That will be recorded. Thank you. The meeting has adjourned.